Hello friends, welcome to the Block Thrasher Morning Brew. That's right. Say goodbye to the Block Thrasher Daily Morning Crypto Update, which was a mouthful anyway. I am reformatting the show and rebranding the show. It's going to be called the Morning Brew. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, throw on your AirPods, or turn it on in the car on your way to work and get everything you need to know about what's happening in the cryptocurrency space in 15 minutes. In the future, I'm going to make sure that the show is somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. It's going to be quick, it's going to be fast, but it's going to give you everything that you need to know about what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another podcast, which is going to be like a Block Thrasher deep dive on crypto, where we're going to go into specific coins and projects and do the kind of research, the deep fundamental analysis of those particular projects. There's even going to be a third podcast, which is going to be on the technical aspects. It's going to be Block Thrasher EDU, an education series where we're going to talk about blockchain and the technologies behind it and go really deep into all of that. So I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. I've been getting feedback from listeners and from the audience on what they want. And I just wanted to do something that's easy to consume every day. Going to drop the Block Thrasher Morning Brew at 7 o'clock every day is going to be the plan. Every single day, you can just come and get what you need really quickly. So let's get into it. Let's start with that today. Again, welcome to the Block Thrasher Morning Brew with Justin Cummins. It's July 14th, 8:50 a.m. I'm in the beautiful state of Wyoming, Sheridan, Wyoming. Boy, I tell you what, this is a little bit of a gem right here. Gotta love this place. Super fantastic coffee shop here. It's called, what is it called? The Bison Union Coffee. It's kind of like the Black Rifle guys. It's founded by a veteran and a rancher, and they've got incredible branding. Just bought one of their hats today. Great clothing line. They've also opened up a retail store now in Texas, so they've got the one here in Sheridan, Wyoming, and the one in Texas. Something to check out. You can check them out online. Just Google Bison Union Company. Really great coffee too. Anyway, let's get to the cryptocurrency market and see what's going on here this day. We've got a total market cap increase right now of 1%. Rock and roll, baby. Yeah, it's nice to see that because the last couple of days have been a little bit painful. Last night, things got really kind of, cloudy. It wasn't looking good. A lot of red going down quite a bit. But currently, at least at this moment, up 1% to $1.4 trillion total market cap. Bitcoin's dominance is at 44%, Ethereum is at 16.7%, and the gas prices are starting to rise a little bit. We're at 52 GWAY. All right, Bitcoin is coming in at 32,892. Ethereum is 2,010, down 13.5%. Ethereum got hit this week. Ouch. I tell you what, if you're an Ethereum maximalist, you're in a bit of pain right now. I hope you're not anyway. Binance Coin, $312. Cardano, $1.28. Cardano had dropped as low as $1.22 at some point last night on some exchanges, down 9.2%. That's unusual. Cardano is like normally incredibly stable relative to the rest of the market, but this time around, it's getting hit as well, along with Ethereum. XRP, 62 cents, down 6.8% on the week. A Dogecoin is down 13.2% to 20 cents. And this is not that much of a surprise. I don't care how much Elon Musk tries to pump that sucker. The supply, it increases too much. Been saying this for a long time. It would take an insane amount of new people constantly coming in. And when the market starts to cool down just a little bit, those people that were coming in are going to panic, sell, and dump. They just don't have the long-term experience. Besides, they aren't investing on the fundamentals of the dang thing. They're investing on the hype. All right, so when the hype dies, the fire dies. And that's what we're seeing. Dogecoin coming in at 20 cents. Polkadot, 14.10. Polkadot's been suffering too. Boy, wow, down to number 9 in terms of market cap. Of course, it's some of that is a result of USD coin just being and Binance coin, these stable coins. We've got 3 stable coins in the top 10 now. So if you remove those, some of these are obviously higher in the rankings. Polkadot $14.10, down 11.8%. Uniswap down 19% on the week. Uniswap hurting at $18.16. Of course, for anybody that got the airdrop, that's still an incredible increase to see Uniswap at $18. So it's not hurting all that bad. Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, $476. Litecoin, $131.39. And Solana, $30.99. This is some good news for Solana today. Phantom Wallet received something like $8 million in funding, or $9 million, to make their Phantom, which is a Solana-based wallet, multi-chain. That's something that's going to be. So Solana is sort of like Ethereum in that it has the SPL type tokens that are sort of like the ERC20 type thing. And they're going to have this ERC20 to SPL converter and all these types of things that are going on within that wallet, which are actually going to be quite positive. All right, moving on to the news items of the day. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says buying Bitcoin is, quote, perfectly fine. Now, if you don't know, this guy, look at this guy. If you're watching on the video, well, what a great snapshot that is of him. Look at that smirk on his face. This guy looks like one of those people that sits around just like, how can I screw over people today? I'm sorry. Maybe that's not the case, but anybody who, and he said, listen, this guy has been called the boogeyman of crypto at one point in time. During his tenure as Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin took the mantle of a Bitcoin villain, right? A February 2020 poll run by stock-to-flow model creator Plan B. We know him, right? We've talked about the stock-to-flow model that he created, or not created, but, it's used throughout the traditional investment world, and he sort of like applied it, was the first one to apply it effectively to crypto and got some notoriety for that. Anyway, he portrayed this character, Mnuchin, as the biggest threat to cryptocurrency in this poll that he had back in February of 2020. 51.9% of the respondents to the poll said that, Mnuchin passing a draconian law as a Treasury Secretary was the greatest concern in cryptocurrency over, Craig Wright's legal patent issue, futures manipulations, and other types of things, right? So in July of 2019, Mnuchin compared Bitcoin to a Swiss-numbered bank account, raising concerns over illicit financial activities. He said this. He said, I want to be careful that anybody who uses Bitcoin, regardless of what the price is using it for proper purposes and not illicit purposes. Do you understand? Oh, this is, every time I hear this kind of thing coming from these government types, it kind of makes my blood boil. And I'll tell you why. If that's the case, like if they feel like they have a mandate to ensure that no illegal activity ever happens, any financial illegal activity, and of course, what are they talking about? Money laundering, not paying taxes, listen, then they're going to have to get rid of physical cash, right? Because it is the number one thing that is used for illegal activity in the world. It's not traceable necessarily. I mean, there may be some methods, but it's pretty much anonymous. If you and I meet, you sell me something on Craigslist and we meet on the corner and I give you $1,000 cash, right? Depending on where it came from, obviously, maybe I withdrew it from my bank and there's a record there. But once that cash is out into the wild, it's even more private than Bitcoin. And this is what people need to understand. These types actually believe that they should have the ability to track and trace every single financial transaction you or I or anybody ever does. This is what they're after. This is what they now believe. It's never been like that. That has never been the case. Historically speaking, there was actually opposite of that, an expectation of privacy. Even written into the Constitution, right? That our personal papers and such should not be subject to search and seizure. In December 2020, he submitted a controversial transaction reporting proposal that would require exchanges to store KYC data about all users that send more than $3,000 per day to self-hosted wallets. According to a book penned, I watched Enemy of the State last night again, which is a great movie. And what this basically tells you is that they're doing this with the banking system. They're tracking everything, demanding that these institutions, JP Morgan Chase, whoever it is, keep records of all this stuff. All right, moving on to the next story of the day. the 10 biggest Ethereum wallets, 10 biggest Ethereum whales are stockpiling even more Ethereum. Boy, you guys, they just can't get enough, right? These whales coming in, scooping up everything they can. Now, is this good? Now, it's just bad. Well, I mean, it's good and it's bad and it's bad and it's good. I mean, it's bad because obviously we want distribution. Any cryptocurrency strength is built upon a well-distributed cryptocurrency gives it resiliency. If you got a bunch of whales, these whales can dump at any time and just devastate that particular crypto. I'm not saying that I think these Ethereum whales are necessarily going to do that, but for adoption, we want to see it go the other direction. Yeah, I mean, it's also good from the standpoint of these people believe and they're going to keep buying, and that's going to keep the price going up. That's going to keep the price stable. So this information comes from Santiment. Santiment posted on Twitter and said Ethereum's top 10 largest addresses now own the highest percentage of ETH's overall supply, 20.58% since May 2017. After dropping as low as 18.46% after the all-time high, they've now accumulated 2.12 more of ETH's total supply in the last 41 days. So 20%, that's a little bit more than I would like to see. Let's grab a little bit more of this Bison Union coffee. Boy, that is good stuff. Got to keep that coffee going on the morning brew. All right. Here's good news for mass adoption around the world. Brazil's SEC approves first Ethereum ETF in Latin America. The Brazilian Securities Commission, called CVM, has approved the first exchange-traded fund tracking the performance of Ethereum in Latin America. Rock and roll, Brazil. Way to go. Let's see if we ever get an ETF approved by the SEC here. Come on, SEC. Yeah, it's coming. All right. Crypto apps surpassed 50% of all U.S. investment app downloads in H1 of 2021. Rock and roll, baby. Crypto, it's coming. It's chasing it. I mean, you may try to hide, but you will not be able to. The cryptocurrency market's growth continues, and this is just another example of that, as 50% of all U.S. investment app downloads are crypto apps. All right, let's round up the today's morning brew with our discussion on inflation, the insidious thief. We ended yesterday talking about how the Federal Reserve, the central bank, is what methods, what tools they have to try to achieve their ends, right? Their goals, which is full employment and 2 to 3% inflation, and hopefully not too much. So these are the things they can do. They can modify the discount rate. Central banks can't directly set interest rates for loans such as mortgages, personal loans, or auto loans, which is known as the lending rate, the quote lending rate. So obviously, you'll I know I've had conversations with mortgage lenders before, and they're like, no, the Federal Reserve doesn't set the interest rate. They can't set it, and technically speaking, that is true. However, central banks do have the power to influence the lending rate by modifying the discount rate. So, in effect, essentially, they do. Central banks change these rates to incentivize borrowing, monetary expansion, or lending, monetary contraction, to control economic growth. If the discount rate is low, borrowing from the central bank is less expensive, and thus banks can lend to customers at a lower rate. Lower rates tend to increase borrowing and consequently the quantity of money in circulation, which can stimulate economic growth. However, central banks should theoretically refrain from keeping rates too low. This is a crucial point. Central banks should theoretically refrain from keeping rates too low for too long to avoid excessive inflation. If a central bank wants to decrease borrowing and incentivize saving because an economy is growing too fast, it can increase the discount rate. But what have we seen? It's been a very, very long time since our central bank, the Federal Reserve, has increased rates. And the problem is when they get caught in a situation where they should be, but they can't. And that's what we're concerned about. That's what we see. Here's another thing they can do. They can change the bank reserve requirement. Another common way central banks manage the money supply is by adjusting the bank reserve requirement. Reducing the reserve requirement allows commercial banks to use the surplus to lend out more money. On the other hand, the central bank can reduce money in circulation by increasing the reserve requirement. See, so basically they're telling the bank, no, you have to have more in your stockpile, more in your reserve. And that's how they can decrease the money, not the total money that exists, but the money in circulation. See, in the US, when a bank runs low on reserves and needs to meet the reserve requirement, it will borrow funds from another bank overnight and pay the federal funds rate. Notably, the federal funds rate impacts all lending markets because of the cost associated with borrowing from other banks. For instance, if it is expensive for a bank to borrow from another bank, financial institutions will logically charge its customers an even higher interest rate. Alternatively, suppose it doesn't cost much for a bank to borrow from one of its peers. In that case, financial institutions will offer their customers loans at a lower interest rate to compete in a market where money is cheaply available. As a result, the federal funds rate directly influences the lending rate. This practice of banks creating loans in excess of customer deposits is known as fractional reserve banking. And when you understand fractional reserve banking, it's just mind-blowing. Most people have absolutely no idea, no clue about how this actually works. So let's look at that. While the U.S. reserve requirement tends to vary depending on factors such as the type of financial institution and existing economic conditions, it is usually somewhere between 5 and 10%. However, the Federal Reserve Board lowered reserve requirement ratios to a historic, I wanted to say hysterical. It is hysterical. A historic low of 0% on March 15th of 2020 in response to the first outbreak of the COVID pandemic. Do you understand what that means? It means that the banks don't have to have any money in their bank backing up the deposits of their customers because the reserve requirements is 0%. Woo! Wow, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy. That's why there's FDIC insurance. Because if everybody decided to go to the bank and try to withdraw their money, guess what? It's not there. We've got 0% in reserves. The tricky part about fractional reserve banking is that it allows for the multiplication of money created from nothing. Listen to that again. The tricky part about fractional reserve banking is that it allows for the multiplication of money created from nothing. For example, assume a bank starts with 0 and it receives $100 deposit. The bank now has $100 in reserves. At the current reserve requirement in the U.S., the bank can lend out the full $100 to other individuals or institutions and thus insert an additional $100 into the economy. The borrower then might take their $100 to another bank to deposit, where it will be lent out once again and increase the number of dollars in circulation even further in the feedback loop. This economic phenomenon is known as the multiplier effect. And it works because the banks know that they can safely assume that most people aren't going to withdraw all of their money. And it's the kind of thing that works until it doesn't. If a country's financial stability is in question, depositors may seek to withdraw their funds from a bank out of fear that the bank could become insolvent, known as a bank run. Bank runs have occurred repeatedly since the advent of banking, including during the Great Depression and the 2008-2009 financial crisis, the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. Bank runs create negative feedback loops that can quickly bankrupt banks and contribute to a systemic financial crisis or collapse. Though banks have significant safeguards in place to prevent bank runs, like shutting everything down so you can't get your money and etc., etc., they are still a genuine possibility. The last bank run occurred in May of 2019 against Metro Bank. It was not very long ago. Some economists argue that while fractional reserve banking has its risks, it is not definitively inflationary and can stimulate economic growth. This scenario is especially true when lending fuels technological innovation, which is deflationary. That's a laugh. That's a hoot right there. All right, we're going to wrap it up with that. That's enough. Oh, man, that's a heavy thing right there. When you start to, I first became aware of the fractional reserve banking system and how that worked when I read The Web of Debt. It's a really great book. In 2009, I read that after the great financial crisis and all the stimulus was going on, the bailouts, TARP, and I was like, what? How does this work? Where is this money coming from? Et cetera, et cetera. It was like the wake-up call, I think, for me and for so many other people. Let's wrap things up with the word of the day. Gallicism. What is a Gallicism? A Gallicism is a French language, French idiom or expression used in another language. An example of a Gallicism would be je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais quoi. When used in English. So when somebody says je ne sais quoi, which is like, I don't know, I don't really have an explanation for that quality in that particular thing, that is a Gallicism. All right, friends, I hope you just have a phenomenal day on this Wednesday, and I look forward to talking with you tomorrow. You know, if you're new into our audience and you haven't already gone to blockthrasher.com and signed up for an account there, please do. I know that there hasn't been a lot posted there, and there will be in the future. Actually, I can't reveal yet. I can. Blockthrasher.com is going to become a very, very, very valuable and useful tool. It's probably going to take 6 months to a year, but I have some ideas for that. It's going to make it something that everybody's going to want to go to every single day. One aspect of it that I can tell you about is that it's going to become a news aggregate site, one of the most advanced news aggregate sites, where you're still going to want to listen to the Morning Brew to get your daily crypto news update, but everything's going to be pulled from all the different news sources into that site, and everybody's going to be able to vote on what is important and comment and all kinds of other things. It's going to be great. It's going to be phenomenal. So look for that. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye now.